Hi, welcome back to the channel. Okay, today we're going to cover chapter 4, IoT communication layer. Okay, so previously we have covered the device layer, which is about all the embedded systems, the electronics, the CPU. So we are moving into the communication layer. So we'll look at the back in all the various layer and all the protocol, and especially in the cyber security area. Okay, especially on the cyber security area. Next, okay, so these are the things we're going to cover. Okay, we're going to cover some of the vulnerability in IoT layer, some of the functions, okay, and the vulnerability within the wireless network. After that, after the wireless, the access network, we're going to go take a look at the TCP/IP portion. Okay, the impact of IP, the impact of TCP, UTP in IoT equipment. Last but not least, we're going to look at some mitigation methods, okay, for the network itself. Okay, let's take a look at the OWASP top 10. Okay, in terms of communication layer, the key part is at the network protocol itself. The device services, okay, we take in terms of the vulnerability wise, their information disclosure, injection, denial services, unencrypted services. Okay, those are the common one in the communication layer. Okay, of course there are a lot of DDoS replay attack as well. Okay, so these are the common vulnerability in terms of communication layer, in terms of the access network. Please remember all these are access network. Okay, what are your access network? Your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth. Okay, your network traffic. When it comes into your network traffic itself, right, we need to talk about your LAN connection. Okay, some other non-standard protocol. Okay, of course this covers some of the wireless stuff lah, but this is more into your a lot of your TCP/IP stuff. Okay, that is actually going to cover itself. Okay, so for communication channel wise, okay, there are different size typically for wireless. Okay, if we talk about a small area network, we talk about things like home network, or a lot of this is not official naming convention. For a lot of the real naming convention, typically we'll call them the local area network. Okay, which is about 100 meters or less than that, which actually we have covered earlier on. Or for larger area, then we talk about wide area network, which is more than about 1 kilometer or so. Okay, there is a lot more efficient in terms of that. All this is what Cisco has actually presumed. Okay, but a lot of time it is not part of the standard itself. Okay, remember this? This is how ETSI defined the standard model, right? They have the network domain, they have the end devices, okay, that goes through the router, okay, or the whatever gateway that you have, and connected to the individual component. For example, a single board computer, such as a Raspberry Pi or phone or laptop. A lot of time, this is basically your single board computer basically going to your vending machine, right? Then you have a gateway, a modem that allows you to connect to the rest of the network itself. Okay, and then you have your network equipment. Okay, and last but not least, connected to the back-end application. A lot of time, the key application is your authentication center for security wise. Okay, that's the AUC. Okay, whether you're talking about 2G, 3G, 4G, or 5G network itself. Okay, for the, let's do some of the erase. So let's take a look at the security portion itself, right? A lot of time, when we talk about security, the gateway was the key portion, right? The gateway, this thing. Where's my gateway? This is my gateway, right? As I mentioned, gateway is the key portion that actually connects the two things before. So vulnerability wise, this is the main thing that you need to protect. Okay, this thing is the main thing that you need to protect. On the network portion, at the network portion, right? Your network base station, okay, is the one that they care more in terms of the protection itself. Okay, even for wired network okay, your switch is the one that is one of the key component inside there. Then at the far back end, your authentication center, which is basically your authentication server. This is your, typically if you talk about network wise, this is your authentication server, this is your authenticator, this is your supplicant. Okay, so we come back to AAA, right? The key part is how does all these AAA works and how do you make sure that it is properly protected at the end of the day. Okay, which means that it comes back to all the necessary protocol such as radius. Okay, radius. Okay, your PEEP, important protocol, right? And your proper authentication, which is MS chat itself. Okay, so these are some of the key protocol that is important itself. This is the one that comes with the username password. Okay, remember? Okay, and this is the one that actually protects this guy. Okay, and your radius itself. Your radius is the one that actually holds the chat, but radius go further back down to the point of the actual database, which is your Active Directory. Okay, which we in actual fact we covered in the previous lesson itself, right? Your X.549. Okay, your certificate itself. Okay, because eventually you still need to have this certificate also. Okay. Now, for communication channel, they can have several architecture end of the day, right? In terms of IoT wise. So the typical one is the star one, the spoke and hub topology. Okay, some of them may be mesh, okay, which is getting common nowadays. Okay, how does a mesh look like? Looks like something like this. Find the mouse. How the mesh going to be? Okay, end of the day. So typically you have things, and the gateway a lot of time is the one that convert the traffic from Wi-Fi or Ethernet into the network itself, going through the router. Okay, so the gateway, that's the main gateway. Whatever things that you have connection goes through that. They either hop in between each other, or they go direct to the gateway itself. So if you take a look at this diagram is a picture of some of the modern connectivity. Okay, this assume that this is known as running on IPv6. Okay, this typically is on the 6 low PAN network. Okay, low powered personal area network itself. Okay, basically using Cisco equipment, right? So yeah, some of these things that directly connect to the as we mentioned earlier on, through the gateway or go through a mesh, they hop from one another before you get to the gateway and connects to the internet itself. Okay, so this is one of the system, right? Some of this system, as mentioned, it may not be running on Wi-Fi because of power constraint. Okay, some of them are using some other technology such as LoRa or 6LoWPAN itself. Okay, next. So these are some of the things we went through earlier on, right? 802.15.4. Okay, and then on top of it, you run 6LoWPAN and IPv6, which is just on that diagram that you saw, right? Okay, so you have quite a bit from 15.4 that actually support the 6LoWPAN stuff. Okay, that's one of the technology. Basically, the security is based on 15.4, which later we'll cover. Okay, next thing is Bluetooth. Bluetooth nowadays we have a Bluetooth low powered. Okay, since version 4 onwards. Bluetooth, there are several standards. We'll go through the several standard in the coming slides. Okay, one of the key part is it runs on 2.4. Okay. Next one is Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is running on 2.4 or 5 gigahertz. Okay. We will also cover the security soon. Right. These are some of the security things that we are going to cover. Each of them are running a very different security system. Next thing is NFC. NFC, the security wise will not be as incomparable to the rest of the thing. Where do we use the NFC? Typically in Singapore, if you take your EZ-Link card, okay, EZ-Link card, okay, that's where your NFC is. And then the NFC, the near field communication, basically is 4 to 1.6 cm. The security wise is rather different. We will cover in detail immediately after that here soon. Okay. Then last but not least, followed by cellular. Okay, cellular typically is what we covered just now. Okay, your AAA portion. Okay, similar your Wi-Fi, we're going to have AAA itself. Okay, but on top of it, we're going to cover in detail what are all the security going to be involved. Okay, let's talk about 802.15.4 first, right? The first one. So, it is basically used. It's very small. Typically, if you take a look, when compared to a coin or matchstick or pen or whatever, right? So it's a very pretty small device end of the day for 15.4, right? It's typically originally designed for personal area network. Basically, it's a very small network. Personal area network, typically, if you go by, the 1 kilometer, which is WAN, and then your 100 meter, right, which is your local area network. Your personal area network, typically they talk about is about 10 meter or so. Okay, so it's very near, but it's wireless. Okay, it's wireless, right? It was designed for consistently for with the design of the MAC layer and the physical layer itself. Okay, and then on top you basically run a 6-low-pan. Okay, low powered device, and already using IPv6 or ZigBee. ZigBee will cover later. Main part is we will cover the portion on this thing. So what does it mean? It is meant for it is a reliable communication. Okay, for between two devices. Okay, we want to have transmit and receive in actual fact, right? Yes, association, de-association, connectivity. Okay, the key part is using this thing called carrier sense multiple access, such as just very similar to how internet is. Basically, carrier sense multiple access in that way that if someone trying to transmit, they will do a request to send, okay, from the client, from the station, okay, to the access point end of the day. Okay, and then the access point sees that no people are transmitting, and then it will send a clear to send, right, to whoever who wanted to send the information, and then thereafter the data transmit. Okay, so there's this request to send, clear to send acknowledgement message going on. Okay, for wireless, that's the only way to do it, because you can't sense the actual transmission of the air. Of course, then will cause a lot of collision inside the air when they have multiple clients. Okay, so this is the typical design of wireless. So, what does 15.4 have? A lot of time we have a thing called the coordinator, which is the main part. This is the coordinator, right? It connects to the gateway that before it goes to the internet. Okay, internet. Right? Then some of the nodes you have can be a reduce function, so that you end of the day can reduce the total number of power available for this, because end of the day you want to be able to run 5 years. So this is typically a battery powered device, right? Comes with battery, right? You're talking about coin based battery, very small battery. This thing probably is connected to the power itself, okay, your main power, okay. And then there are also some of the full function devices may also connect to the main itself. Okay, so full function provide everything, right? The main one the personal area network coordinator helps to forward the traffic to the gateway, right? The full function may also go through that as well. So then you have a star topology here. This is a star topology. Okay. Next, so you can have star topology for 15.4. You can have cluster. Okay, so you have all these are clustered onto a fully functional node. Another cluster that goes into the fully functional node, and another cluster go to a fully functional node, and then this cluster, all this goes through this thing to the main one coordinator, and all these things go to the coordinator before it connects to the gateway. Okay, or it can be mesh like this because they need to communicate with one another, and then some of them are reduced. Okay, so long they are within the range, they can do it. Do note that your reduced node can never hop through another one. It must either hop through a coordinator or a fully functional device because it's a reduced function. It doesn't route, or it doesn't do the hopping anymore on behalf of someone. It doesn't do that anymore. So this is the key feature of the three different topology: the star topology, the mesh topology, and the cluster topology. Okay. So this is next thing. 802.15.4 in terms of the access control itself. Then go to the security. Access control itself. It can prevent unauthorized device to join. Okay, something similar to AAA. Okay, it has a message integrity check. Okay, either MD5 or SHA-1. Okay, most of them have a similar technology, and it provides message confidentiality, typically AES. Okay, in terms of connections, and I try to do replay attack. The replay attack protections have to come in from AES. Okay, not so much on the hashing. The hashing is just helping in terms of the integrity portion itself. It needs to be a lot more complicated than integrity. Integrity doesn't help in terms of replay attack. It just makes sure that when you're doing the transmission, nothing. I mean, you can do a checksum here, but then it's not 100% for your message and authentication code, or sometimes we call them MIC. Okay, over here. Wi-Fi does the same thing. But a lot of time it is the AES encryption, which is a whole full suite of the messaging that actually helps to protect not just a replay attack. This helps, right? MD5 and SHA-1. Okay, but then the more important portion is the AES crypto itself. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the crypto. Okay, so for the crypto itself, right? If you don't have AES, it's now, right? So it doesn't support whether in terms of confidentiality wise or authentication wise, right? Then in order for the integrity wise per frame, that's why I mentioned just now, your Michael, your AES, okay, and your MD5 SHA-1 does not really, it's not in great deal in terms of your pure and integrity, because it's not frame by frame integrity. So there is the thing called cyber block. Okay, cyber block allows you to have frame by frame integrity. That actually helps in terms of replay attack, because each of them is protected by the earlier one. So end of the day, they are overlay with one another. So there is a hash upon hash upon hash chain for this particular thing. So it's not so easy to break in terms of replay attack, because when you want to send through another one, you have the other frames to check for the integrity itself. Okay, so there's a frame by frame check for CPC. On the other side, your CTR doesn't do that. Okay, your counter block. But then the counter block, the good thing is it provides frame encryption. Okay, within the frame encryption itself. Okay, so that's what the strength of CTR is. The strongest one of 15.4 is basically CCM. CCM is a combination of both CPC and CTR, which is actually what Wi-Fi is doing also. Okay, a lot of time you need both. You need the individual cyber one to prevent replay attack, at the same time provide encryption. Okay, so which is what CCM is. CCM really is. Okay, but 32 is a bit too short. Typically, we go for at least 128. Okay, for the AES encryption wise. 32 is too short. Okay, for AES wise. Okay, so for 802.15.4, okay, typically on top of it, to provide IPv6 services, there's a thing called 6LoWPAN, okay, which typically used in 15.4, typically, right? On top of it, you can run ZigBee. We'll cover some of the additional ZigBee portion in terms of security-wise later. Of course, you can do thread. Thread is picking out speed this past 2 years, even though it's mentioned for quite a long time already. But then in terms of IoT, home network is picking up traction. ZigBee has been around for a long time, but then it never picked up to a very huge acceptance area because of the way it's been done. Okay, because include additional routing and application layer stuff. Okay, 6LoWPAN is used mainly in some of the European country for some of their devices, right? Okay, of course you can add additional thing on top of 6LoWPAN, which is ZigBee or Thread itself. Next thing is mainly for industry IoT. Then we move into wireless HUD. HUD itself is one of the standard for industrial IoT. So this is the wireless version of the HUD for industry equipment itself. Last but not least, for some of the additional communication, okay, this ISA 100.11a, which is a US standard for some of the communication for IoT itself. Okay, so these two thing is mainly for industrial IoT. Okay, or the other time we call them the operational technology, wireless technology. Okay, next, of course, we come into the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi portion. We go through one by one. Okay, let me switch to the other slides now. Okay, let's go through the Wi-Fi portion now. Okay, so what's involved in terms of Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi was, the security actually was designed in released in 1997. In actual fact, the very first Wi-Fi standard is somewhere around 1999. Later, even compared to this but that this is the pre-modern Wi-Fi, which is what you see today. Okay, 1997 was the very first Wi-Fi standard, but it's until 1999, which is what you are using today, compatible to whatever you're using today. Prior to that, the whatever that was in design was not compatible with today. So 1999, there's a change from 1997 to 1999 version in terms of the communication portion, but then the security portion was developed in 1997. Then there is a enhanced security in 2004. There's a fast transition in 2008, and then there's a protected mode in 2009. Okay, some of these things you don't really see it in the market yet. 11R, yes, very much ready. 11I definitely, okay, but 11W, not all equipment be able to support this. Well, Cisco equipment definitely, but then not all other equipment are able to support W. Okay. So what do we mean by management frame? So most important thing, Wi-Fi, there are 3 different frames. One is known as the data frame. Okay, data frame is the one that actually does all the data communication. That's where the data frame is. So then there's another thing called the control frame. The control frame is the one that I mentioned just now, right? Your RTS, request to send, your clear to send from the AP. Okay, this is for your station. STA. Your station asks, can I send? Hello? Access point, can I send? Access point say, oh, okay, nobody is sending. Okay, you're clear to send. Then the data frame will be activated and send the actual data. Okay, all these are your control frame. Of course, include acknowledgement. Okay, when you have a clear to send, and then you have acknowledgement say, okay, now I will start sending now before you send the data frame itself. And then there is another portion which is called the management frame. Okay, management frame. what are all these management frame for? Okay, these are some of the management frame. Right at the beginning, since 1999, there are already management frame. When you want to connect from a station to the basically whichever access point, there's a thing known as a SSID. Okay, you discover the SSID by having the probe. Okay, probing allows you to see, is there anyone that can I connect to? There's a probe frame, which is a management frame. Or there is another one, which is the beacon, which is the access point constantly setting up. This is my SSID, who want to connect? That's beacon. Okay, so that is also a management frame. Then on top of that, there are of course association frame, okay, which are doing for connections, and association request and association response. Okay, so allows you to associate and connect to the access point. That is also a management frame. There are some outdated management frame which is inside 1997. Okay, those are the early security frames. Let's go to those. Okay, let me go to that one first. Okay, these are the 1997 standards. Okay, it's known as a wired equivalent privacy. Okay, it makes use of earlier encryption method known as RC4 for connectivity. Okay, it is subject to passive attack for decryption traffic. Okay, they make use of collecting of all the information within the RC4, because the key part of this thing is because of this IV key. Okay, this IV key is in serial way, so it counts from 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so very easily guessed, and that breaks the key, whole entire key, and therefore makes the passive easy to collect. Okay, allows active to inject information into it, and then later allows to decryption of the message. Okay, this whole thing is because it's in serial, so it's subjected to dictionary attack end of the day. So WEP is weak in terms of encryption and authentication purposes end of the day. Okay, that's where the weakness is in 1997. Okay, all these are 1997. Of course, wireless are subjected to some other things. Example, dissociation. Okay, and that is why we need to protect the management frame. Remember, association is part of management frame. Okay, so there are, as I mentioned, there are 2 frames for your 1997, which is today we don't use anymore, which is called the authentication frame. Okay, those are also management frames. Okay, since 2004 it was not used anymore. Okay, we move into WPA and WPA2. Somewhere around 2000 onwards, we start to use WPA, which is temporary because the CPU is not powerful enough for the access point. So we are still using RC4. Okay, as the encryption method, but the whole entire process has changed. Okay, has changed without having that simple IV keys. Okay, the whole point is instead of having a fixed key, they create a temporal key. Okay, a key within the session. So every 1 hour the key changed. So it makes it not so easily hackable. So every 1 hour there's a brand new key. Okay, so that's what happened after 2004, right? For the RC4 portion, which is the WPA, which is TKIP, which is also known as TKIP, right? The WPA2 is known as a RSN, Robust Secure Network, which is making your AES ready. So when you move to WPA2, it's moved from RC4 to AES. Okay, so that's what this 802.11i really is end of the day. Okay, so Wi-Fi of course have other threats such as wall driving, okay, eavesdropping, spoofing, and denial services. Okay, in early days these are the common one. Okay, and wall driving is someone sniff, because end of the day the the probe and beacon frame are still there, very much there, right? So long you probe or you receive a beacon from the access point, okay, they are subjected to some of this eavesdropping if it's unencrypted traffic, right? Or driving. End of the day, okay, someone can drive around and figure out what are the SSID, okay. Then eavesdropping, if it's an open network, which means that no encryption whatever, then it's subjected for connectivity, right? Some don't even have that, right? But nowadays, we enable as a open network, but then we do additional for WPA2. So WPA2 will appear like open network, okay, but internally it will do additional encryption. Okay, WPA and WPA2 both actually, okay, which is the standard for 802.11i. Okay. These are some of the tools that's available. Can be totally passive. Of course, this is not totally passive, but then they are free and open source. Okay, and then it's possible to hijack, okay, and spoof the MAC address for the access point and send this association frame to the victim itself. So that's called session hijacking. All these are security issues with Wi-Fi. Okay, and it's also possible to spoof the MAC address. Spoof basically is fake as a MAC address. So you're not supposed to be the one to connect. By the end of the day, you actually fake the MAC address. So MAC authentication is highly inadvisable for Wi-Fi or any wireless connectivity. Okay, so it's possible to do a man-in-the-middle attack through a very old machine that doesn't use WPA or WPA2. End of the day. Okay, of course, a lot of time, if you have a very powerful system, it's possible to jam. But then, in actual fact, it's very, very hard to jam because you require a very powerful radio. Basically, you kill someone if you use that, right? So, well, in between, WPA does have some weaknesses. Remember, WPA is still running RC4. RC4 is the main weakness. It's a very weak authentication system. We no longer use that anymore, so that's why this is not that bad anymore in terms of the pairwise key. Pairwise key is still because it's vulnerable to eavesdrop and dictionary at the end of the day, right? Even with WPA2, okay, it's still possible to use a pairwise key, just like what you use at home. Basically means that you have no radius, you don't have any authentication imposed, additional protection. You don't have an authentication server, you only have an authenticator, so it's not a full suite. Next, PIP has some form of vulnerability during 2008. Okay, it is about certification validation. So it's best that you check every client certificate. It's easy to say than done. A lot of equipment doesn't do that of that. So end of the day, that is one of the things that a lot of network did not do. They only check username, password. Okay, the key thing is they only check username, okay, password, and server certificate. Okay, hardly any client certificate end of the day is involved. So this is one of the issues that PIP was having an issue end of the day. Last but not least is TKIP vulnerability, because you're still using RC4. So rekeying in AES will fix the encryption and the vulnerability end of the day very much. Of course, if the AES used here must be CCM. Okay, basically it's a combination I mentioned, CTR plus CPC. Okay, this allows you to have proper encryption, and this allows you to have proper integrity check end of the day. Okay, so that's Wi-Fi in terms of security wise. Wi-Fi. Okay. Next, okay, we will jump ahead. We go straight into cellular, since Wi-Fi and cellular, they are quite similar. So these are the technology that we went through earlier on already, right? With GSM, 2G, 3G, 4G, of course today 5G. Okay. And threat to cellular network, some of them are SIM cloning, right? It's possible to clone a SIM, not very common today, okay? But it used to be very common, and then it's possible to clone a SIM, right? Just copy and then you can use it, okay? End of the day, battery life, okay. Not everything need to be charged once a day, but then battery life is one of the stuff that actually disable and connect the thing to the cellular network itself. Okay, but most of the what you call it, the vending machine, even though it's connected to the cellular network, these are some of the things to look at. You power off, then you have no connectivity end of the day. Through that, it may be possible for you to do some form of hacking end of the day. Okay. The key part is the 2G, 3G, 4G. 2G, because of the base station, you remember I mentioned just now base station, right? Base station is the key part. It's just like the switch. Whether you do you do proper mutual authentication or not, right? Just like Wi-Fi. Your switch, your NAS, you must do a proper mutual authentication. Must have a username, password. In actual fact, a password, what we call a secret. Okay, a lot of time when you put it inside there, the secret for your radius. Okay, do you do that or not? So your 3G basically is based on radius. 2G and 3G are based on radius technology. Okay, the difference is 3G do mutual authentication. So you track your network equipment. So therefore, it is a lot more secured compared to a 2G network. Nowadays in Singapore, there's no longer 2G network, so we don't need to worry about that. We don't even have 3G now. We only left with 4G and 5G. Okay, so all these things, in most country, in Singapore, it doesn't have that problem. In some country, they still have 2G and 3G network. Okay. 4G, they provide additional mandate integrity protection. Okay, make sure that the check is put additional value inside that. For 5G, there's a missing 5G inside here. The 5G thing is about the anonymity of your SIM card itself. Your 5G is the enhanced, SIM card protection, right? Your SIM card, when you travel to another country, okay, that is where the vulnerability lies, because you are not in Singapore. So you go to some other country, they may not be so secured based on whatever, because your 3G, your 5G, 4G can revert back to 4G, 4G can revert 3G, 3G can revert 2G. So long I have a 2G modem, eventually it may connect back to your 2G modem, and that is where, and that's how people do the information tapping. Okay, so that is why when you connect to any network, you need to double check that they don't fall back to the earlier thing. You can't really check on your phone now, but then there is a possibility. That's how people do hacking end of the day for cellular network eventually, actually. Okay, so it costs about less than $1,000 to do so. Okay, these are some of the software that actually allows people to do that. Okay, so that's cellular. Let's move on to Bluetooth. Okay, Bluetooth, typically this is how the Bluetooth set look like. Okay, you have actually the Bluetooth doesn't go things like TCP/IP. Basically, it has this thing. It used to have it allows you from here and connect to a thing called RFCOM. Okay, and then on top of that, you run PPP, point-to-point protocol, which is used to be what dial-up it, and then dial-up connectivity, and on top of it you run your TCP/IP. Okay, that's how we used to run Bluetooth for version 1 and version 2, right? If you want to run TCP/IP, but Bluetooth a lot of time you don't run TCP/IP. Okay, it runs a thing called profile, like an application like that. So whether it is a keyboard, it is a mouse, which is a HCI, right? A lot of times making use of your HCI, which is, you can take a look, human computer, and you see it's here, right? So they re-mimic it over at this profile level and allows you to do the connectivity, whether you're doing a file transfer or whatever. End of the day, file transfer, you have a different profile, but if you're doing a mouse or keyboard, basically you don't go beyond all this. Okay, all this, your keyboard and mouse actually is done actually somewhere around here is good enough. Okay, it's a lot of, in terms of speed wise, even your headset or whatever, it's all done at this level. Okay, so that's classic and a single mode low energy. This is a low energy one. Low energy is just different in terms of the profile and attribute protocol. Okay, this only happens, this single mode one, low energy, only happens after at Bluetooth 4.0 onwards. Okay, 4.0. They split 4.0. There are two different kind of physical device. One are this, one is this. Okay. Your low energy mode does not come with a baseband controller, and therefore it does not do headset very well. Okay, because your headset which require your synchronized mode appears inside this baseband controller. Okay, so that's how it comes in. Now, let's go into the security portion. The Bluetooth 2.1, the pairing phase before 2.1, the pairing phase is insecure. Okay, it is possible for any eavesdropper to obtain the key and guess the key offline and then be able to log in. After 2.1, there is a proper encryption algorithm known as E0, and therefore allows there are some form of vulnerability thereafter which was found insecure. Okay, even at 2.1. Bluetooth now is no longer 2.1. Take a look. Just now we're talking about version 4. And then now even version 5. The latest of the latest is version 5.3. In terms of equipment, it's 5.3. The standard already moved to 5.4. Okay, in terms of the versioning. Right? I keep on mentioning Bluetooth have various versions. Okay. Version 4, there are still some pairing issue. Okay. So version 4, right, is introducing LE, I mentioned. Okay. Traffic is using AES CCM, so now you know what the AES CCM really is now, right? It's a secure one, so almost everybody are using that anymore. But the pairing is not using elliptical curve. Okay, in order for the Bluetooth to work or some other communication to work, a lot of time it depends on the technology that they're using. Okay, they need to use what we call key distribution. So the pairing over here for Bluetooth did not use a good key distribution. It's still using Deafy human. So it is still subjected to some form of vulnerability. Okay, the more advanced one is elliptical curve Deafy human. Okay, Deafy human is an older technology. This is a newer in terms of key distribution wise. Do note that Bluetooth is using this. Wi-Fi, on the other hand, is you have to predetermine what kind of master key you have involved. Okay, it has a thing called a master key and the temporal key. Over here, Bluetooth is on the fly, that you do a key exchange, and then thereafter, you decide what are the temporal key that you're going to use. Okay, so that's the differences. Okay, of course, at version 4.1 and 4.2 onwards, you can do proof of security on screen with devices on screen. Okay, so that actually helps in terms of alleviating the security portion. Version 5 so far doesn't have much security issue. All these things has been patched in version 5, especially 5.1 onwards. Okay. So these are some of the equipment that possible to do some Bluetooth penetration testing for some of the older version of Bluetooth that is have on the environment itself. Next, we go to Zigbee. Okay, this is a framework of Zigbee, right? Remember at the bottom we mentioned this is 15.4. Okay, then you can have a 6 low pan somewhere here. Okay, this is then you have some of the object. This thing is very similar to in actual fact, this is how Bluetooth started off. Bluetooth actually basically copy this whole entire part for the application wise for low powered connectivity. Okay, so Zigbee is using again AES CCM, right? You have a micer, it has a frame counter, okay, to prevent the replay attack end of the day. Of course, the key part here with message authentication with CCM, it can prevent the main part of the replay attack because frame by frame are protected. Okay, there are some encryption that can be found on firmware. Network key can be found in plain text. These are some of the older system of the Zigbee that has some of this vulnerability. The newer one, hopefully, this is down to implementation. It's not so much about the standard itself. Some of the implementation is not that good from some of the vendor, and therefore these are some of the vulnerability Zigbee actually have. Okay, some of the countermeasure prevent the equipment from tampering. The the key should be considered as a public knowledge. So end of the day, should not be used, right? Such as this key. Okay. Key establishment must be done at the master key when you are doing the establishment can be distributed out of band, just like Wi-Fi, right? A lot of time Wi-Fi is making use of the out of band connectivity that will actually help in terms of, or if they really want, they can go for the elliptical curve deafy human. But then again, it's the deafy human issues that they have. Okay, this is some of the devices that for pen testing is possible for Zigbee. So yeah, people use this for doing some of the penetration testing to check whether the network is secured or not secured or not. Okay, next part we are going into the NFC technology, application security and solutions. So we'll look at how NFC really works end of the day. So NFC stands for near field communication. It's a short range one. Okay, typically operates on 13.56 megahertz. Very fast connection. Okay, less than a second. Basically, practically no power consumption except on the reader side. Okay, it can be an active or passive device. Okay, the equipment itself can be on a read-write mode. Your phone actually comes, most of the phone nowadays come with a reader or writer. Okay, so you can put in things inside your NETs card, right? Some of your NETs card is a flash drive, can be is a EasyLink or EasyLink card and what they. So you do a peer-to-peer mode connection. Two active device can exchange data. Okay, a device can act as a contactless card. End of the day. Okay, end of the day. So make use of inductive coupling magnetic field. So some of the applications in Singapore, NFC, EasyLink, basically, Flash Pay, other payments such as on your phone, Apple Pay, Google Play, Samsung Pay. Okay, so these are some of the things. Why are we using it? Because very convenient, tap and pay, very fast. Security comes with encryption. What kind of encryption later? We'll take a look. Integration of with a lot of the payment system. Okay, so these are some of the standards, right? Most of the time, these are some of the standards as A, B, F, V. Singapore a lot of time are using F also, the Felica one that's very popular in Japan. Sony basically, EasyLink is kind of belongs to that category. Okay. So what are the security vulnerability inside there? Okay, can be intercepted by unauthorized party, because you know, if you have a far enough antenna, big enough antenna, okay, people can do that, right? So it's good that if you are having it inside your wallet, you have a RF shield for that, because people find all kinds of way to decrypt the encryption. Possible to have data interference. Okay, can be replay attack and unauthorized access through weak encryption. The earlier one I have all this weak encryption and flawed implementation. So these are some of the counterfeit found done, especially on the EasyLink card. Let's take a look at this one. Go to the web page. Okay, so this is the web page. Someone actually exploited the EasyLink card and top up a function to at least $100,000 worth of secret reference. So it's an EasyLink card, right? So if you really take a look, right? Okay, so this is the encryption method for EasyLink card, right? So it makes use of a Manchester bit coding scheme and make use of this triple DES, which is a type of encryption algorithm. Not the strongest, but then end of the day, it doesn't require a very high-powered system for this thing to run. So end of the day, this is the kind of encryption that runs on today. Okay, then of course there are some other scam going on. There may be some replay attack possible to research. That's still R&D. Yeah. Some of the solution to some of these challenges can be using stronger encryption, provided things like IAES, but then you have to see whether using they are willing to pick up this kind of encryption method, right? Can be multi-factor authentication using a thumbprint or whatever besides just the tap itself, right? Limit the communication, make sure that you don't lose the card. End of the day, tokenization, make sure that there are no sensitive data. And last but not least, educate the user for any potential risk for this NFC itself. So we go to the last part of the this wireless portion, the access network portion. So what are the other things beside your NFC? The other one is LoRa, one of the common one, right? Of course, beside LoRa, which is low band, earlier on there's a few more other technology along the way. One of them is called the Sigfox, okay, which is very common earlier on, right? Sigfox actually same lah. Your cellular, as we mentioned earlier on, mainly used in narrowband IoT. Singtel, StarHub, M1 basically all have, right? But in order to avoid the SIM card portion, and therefore you have this thing, the LoRa and the Sigfox. Sigfox is earlier on started off lah, because it is quite expensive. Per board is about $100 or so. Your LoRa is about less than $20, somewhere around there, per transceiver wise. So that's where the costing comes into play between the Sigfox and this thing. Of course, this thing as times goes by it also go a little bit cheaper, but then typically it's still not that cheap, okay, relatively, because your cellular anyway is about same kind of pricing, about $40 to $100 each pieces. But your LoRa is $20. Okay, it can be $5 to $20, depending on where you buy it from. But then the key part, that's one of the thing of a lot of IoT equipment out there that today is supported by LoRa. And LoRa basically allows you to build a very big network without having the SIM card, and therefore be able to string down the whole overall transceiver itself. Okay, incomparable to 802.15. So LoRa is one that actually builds very quickly out to itself to a big area network such as LoRaWAN end of the day. Okay, what's called it WAN because it's wide area network, but then it's connected to many devices all together. Okay, like your cellular. Okay, and that's the last part of this part. Okay, we shall continue soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.